The American Adoption Congress 13th International Conference, April 11th to the 14th, 1991 in Garden Grove, California. This is program number D151, tape number 64.
There's a lot of things to cover in the next hour and a half. My name is Catalina McLone, and I'm an adoptee. I live in Tucson. I'm a health education specialist, and I have met my birth parents. This workshop is some techniques for more effective support groups, and I have some information I'd like to share with you. And I also recognize that there's expertise here in the room, and expect that we'll learn a lot from each other. I hope that we'll have some fun, that we'll get to know each other better, and that you'll learn some ideas that will help you with your support groups. I personally have had various experiences with groups, not just adoption groups, but I've seen a lot of groups in my life, and I feel that being an adoptee has colored some of my experiences with being in a group. I've had to struggle with feelings of feeling like I didn't belong, or not feeling understood, or just feeling different or overlooked, or not trusting to really share my feelings. And so I'm very sensitive to the dynamics in a group. And if I feel there's a lot of judgment or whatever, then I tend to withdraw or just not participate. So fortunately, I have been in groups where I did feel safe to express my feelings, and I did feel valued. And what I'm planning to cover this afternoon are some of the techniques and formats and structures that help to enhance this feeling of safety for us, which I know is certainly an issue for me as an adoptee, and I think has a lot of applications to the whole triad. Before I go into more specifics about what I have in store for the rest of the workshop, I'd like to find out from you what expectations you have, what you would like to gain during this workshop. So I'm going to write down, if you'll throw out your thoughts of what in particular you wanted to get out of this workshop, in a couple sentences or a few words. Yes?
We started a fairly new group. We're less than a year old, and I'm not comfortable with the format we're using completely. Parts of it I am, but I'm interested in new formats, different ways of approaching the group.
Okay. Thank you. So formats?
I'm an adoption worker, and I'm going to be doing groups of adoptive parents who have adopted older children and special needs children. So I guess that's what my particular focus is, and what I'm also particularly interested in is combining some educational stuff with with the support group. I'm doing both at the same time.
Great.
To get a discussion going in the group, people call them.
Okay.
Publicity, how to encourage people to feel free to come.
Okay.
I'm currently with Alma, and I don't want to be anymore, so. But
You're what?
I'm with Alma, and I don't want to be anymore, but I want to continue doing this, so I have to split away and then start all over. And I love my people, and I want to take them with me, and so that's my dilemma, but doesn't have much to do with being a group.
You want to start a group, or you want to take,
Well,
or you want to take the people you've got now with you, or?
Are you the one that started the Alma and you just want to change the name basically from Alma to something else?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm a birth mother.
Anybody else?
I'm interested in helping people feel their feelings and sort of get beyond storytelling. I'm interested in various ways to do that.
Great. Okay, great. Yes?
I'm interested in knowing how to keep a group going where the leadership has changed recently. It's a young group, and we focused on a big conference recently, and everyone got burned out, so a lot of people are going to come back. I want to revive it.
Okay.
What's the best way to deal with crying?
Crying. Okay, good. It's a favorite subject to talk about. It is. Yes.
We're not really at this point yet since we're so fairly new. I know it's a big problem with groups on keeping people there after they've found.
Okay, keeping people in the group after they've found. Okay. All right. Yes.
Well, the depth of experience, and we're a search and support group, and they tend to go into the, not just search and reunion, but their whole life experience. And Dexter knows the same thing, how they talk about marriage and all these war stories, so to speak, and it's hard to get them back on track without hurting their feelings or discounting. You know,
cut people off.
yeah, and then they keep going. They're crying and emotional, and you don't want to say, well, okay, next person. So that's what happens.
So you're asking about how do you maybe focus more of the sharing and rather.
Yeah, and keep it relevant to search and reunion.
Okay.
What about interaction with agencies, between the group and the agency?
Search and reunion. Interaction with agencies. Okay, I'm not sure I understand.
Well, you want to have a good rapport going with agencies in your area and your support group.
Oh, I see. So the support, how to have positive relations between the support group and with the adoption agencies. That's good. Okay.
I have a problem of keeping people come when they really need it, and then they leave. So
Mhm.
we have an ebbing and flowing that I'd like to eliminate. Have people coming to help as well as be helped.
Oh, okay. Let's see, how do I write that? Any suggestions?
How to avoid the ebb and flow.
Okay. All right, keeping people in the group, and you said you want people to help others. Is that correct?
Yeah. We're not just talking about search and reunion groups, are we?
It's support groups.
Okay.
Yes.
How to get group members to be more active. I guess I'm kind of thinking of being like, you know, a crying shoulder, or not a crying shoulder, a shoulder for someone who needs it. So that they're not, they just don't pretend, they can kind of expand beyond the group.
Okay. To have them take more responsibility for the group as well as. Okay. Great. Any other comments? Well, I think we have more than we can do in an hour and a half, to be honest. In my work world, I do training of support group leaders in the arthritis field, and generally we spend a day to go over a lot of all these topics. I'm not sure we can get over every single one of them. What I had planned, and I will modify what I had planned to include at least some of these. What I had planned to do is to talk about a way to warm up the group so it starts in a positive fashion, some formats and structures that will enhance participation and also can help focus as far as time, and also talk about some ground rules that will help people feel comfortable to express their feelings, some guidelines, talk about confidentiality. Let's see, what else? I've lost my cards. A little bit of talk about listening skills and feelings and how that ties into having an effective support group. And looking at problem-solving technique, and then a good way to end the group. And I will try to infuse some of these things in here. The crying I already had planned to cover. All the things like discussion, we'll talk about assessing the needs of the group as well. And that can include, as one of the, if the members of the group want to work with establishing the rapport with the other agencies, that can be part of what the group collectively works on. So we'll touch on that one as well. Okay. Well, let's start with some warm-ups. The purpose of a warm-up exercise is to get the group starting on a positive note. And it's unusual, we've been at the conference today, but in general, when you come to a meeting, you've been in the rest of your life and you're running around with family, school, work, etc. And it's a good transition to go from that into the group by using some kind of a warm-up exercise. Also, it's a way to have people to be more present in the group, because we can tend to be preoccupied about problems, what else we have to do, etc. So it's a way to have people bring their focus to the fact that you're in a group, and it's a way to build rapport and cohesiveness. So I want to divide you into small groups. Let's see if we can get maybe the 4 of you here together, and the 3 of you, and somehow like 3 or 4 of you back there and 4 over here. I'm going to give each of the groups an index card, and you'll have some instructions on it. Basically to say your name, and then you'll have a question to answer. As an example, one of the cards say to share a highlight that you've had at this conference. And then, so let me pass out these cards. There we go. Your group, you need a recorder and someone to write some responses, whoever it is. And if you'd write your responses on this, then you'll have it ready to share with the group.
She doesn't want to do it. You want to do it?
You can. Did I give you this? Here's. Pardon? Yes.
I'm sorry. What are we saying?
Your name. It's like you're introducing yourself.
Oh, okay.
So you're saying your name and your favorite beach, whether that's a lake or ocean.
Oh, I've got that one. I know that one. I'm Mary Ann Parker. Do you need last names or first names? Mary Ann. My favorite beach is Woodland Beach on Kauai.
Which beach?
Waipu.
Waipu. Oh, I've got a whole world. Hopefully you would go to the hospital.
I'm on Carol Land. Actually, most of them said that person. What's that? Fernanda Bay.
Oh, you're
Okay. All right. We might need to.
Can we
We probably should go on if that's all right. Your name, though. Why don't you introduce yourself as their names? Okay. So let's continue. I'd like to find out from each group just what your topic was that you covered. So yours was, you did 3 of them, right? Which did you do?
The favorite beach, and our highlights so far of the conference.
They got done quickly, so they did 3 separate ones. Okay, and this group back here, what did you do?
We did favorite book,
Adoption book.
adoption book, and share something new and good in your life.
Okay, thank you. And this group?
We had name and something new and good.
Okay. And whoever's the reporter from this group, would you come up and share what you came up with? Great.
We had the favorite icebreaker activities. We start groups, new groups. And one of them that came up was a guessing game with a famous triad member taped to each group member. In other words, like she came up with Roseanne Barr, and somebody would tape it to the back of your shirt, and ask you questions. You had to guess who was taped to the back of your shirt. I thought it was a real good idea. I liked it. And the other one, the second one was to have a game that reveals similarities between group members. And we can come up with a real specific game, but it's something that shows where you're all coming from. And 3 is introducing yourself as a famous person, telling why you would want to be that person. Well, I think that's pretty clear. And 4 is, this is mine. and the other way I can say is our group is the children are there. So what else? Icebreaker. I mean, you immediately start sharing facts about your children. So.
Great. Thank you very much. Any comments about icebreakers or warm-ups? Yes.
An idea that I had was, especially if you have a group that's been together for even a couple meetings or more, have them turn to the person next to them and share what you remember from their search to try and bring you together, things that impressed you. It doesn't have to be the person next to you, but maybe somebody in the group can say, this part of your search touched me in this way.
Okay. Part of the purpose of this is to start off on a positive manner and to get people to feel more connected. I have another activity to do in small groups. It'll be the last one we'll do with index cards in small groups. And that has to do with how do you assess the needs of your group. Because a support group is only as effective as you meet the needs of the members. And because you have different members in each group, the way you design one support group to meet the needs of that group may be different from how you would design a group to meet another collection of people's needs. So there are various ways that you can survey and find out what people want from a group. And so I have some more questions on here, and each of, well, there are 3 different questions, and there's 4 groups that I'll be working on this. So I'll be giving you the instructions, and again, this time I want every group to choose a reporter and a recorder. So for you to write down everybody's responses, and then you can come up to the front and present them if you would. After you get your card, if you read it, if you have any questions, please ask. Do you want to join? There's a group with just 3. Would you like to join them? Or thanks.
So it's an add-on. It's a parent and kid night out.
You have kids in the same room?
No, we have kids in one room. A parent support person is responsible for creating an activity, and then Kim is there to observe.
So that just opens up, okay, gives them focus, and then always.
Okay. Do you need more time? Do you need more time? Okay. Well, let's have the reports from each group now. Who wants to go first? Oh, great. Boy, that's... Come on up here. Yeah, you can use that.
Don't worry, you're only being famous.
I'm not sure I can.
Oh, that's right.
It's no big deal. There we go.
I'm going to read that.
You can, sure.
Our group thought that encouragement during search was very important to be able to share that in a support group.
Would you state your group was to look at what?
Discussing the needs of a support group.
Okay.
The triad members sharing feelings, so the birth parents with the adoptees with the adopted parents, and so forth. Accessibility to materials on adoption, so the educational component be important. outlet for frustrations and emotions of the search and reunion experience, interaction among members versus focus on leaders, so that they're not looking at a leader for the group meeting, but they're talking among themselves, friendship and networking together, that they get some close alliances, and guidance on how to search.
That's great. And in fact, the one comment up here, number 5, the interaction among members versus focus on leaders, that is one way, it's one of the various ways to help get the group members more invested in the group and to take more responsibility for it. Okay, which group wants to go next?
I'm not putting my shoes
Nah.
Okay, basically what we were doing was, how do you assess the needs and wants of a support group? What we, I think, all agreed on is that you ask in some way. You have to elicit from the group. One way would be to just go around the room and have everyone say what their needs are. Another would be to kind of brainstorm as a group, rather than kind of asking everyone to say something. Have the group just kind of brainstorm, writing it down. The leader could tell why she or he is there and what they want, and then kind of, again, elicit from the group what their needs are. I think it's important to reassess regularly, if not every time, fairly often. Kind of take a look at your list again. I do that in some of my trainings. Take another look. What have we covered? What's missing? Has anyone thought of anything new? And then also kind of start off by asking where the group participants are in their feelings, say towards their search or whatever the support group is aiming for. What are they feeling about that at this point? Kind of start at that level.
Okay, thank you. Good. Okay.
Which way this goes on your sheet. This way. Okay, we were talking about topics we'd like to see in a support group, and we have a unique group. We come from all different sides of the triad and a professional as well. So we all had different ideas about it and different kind of groups, I guess. And the adoptive parent in our group wanted more focus on grieving process and infertility. Adoptees' intimate relationships with others was a concern to the adoptee in our group, and probably we decided better discussed in an adoptee support group. Learning about other triad members was mine as a birth mother. I'm very curious to know how the other two sides of the triangle feel. And the professional in our group also was interested in similarities of triad members.
Thank you.
Our question was, what are some of the topics you'd like to see at a support group? And we decided we had to decide first what kind of a support group it was. So one of the first support groups we thought maybe would be one with people who were interested in openness on the adoption issues. And some of the things that we'd want to know in that kind of a group would be how to go about an openness, why should we have openness in adoption, how do you open up a closed adoption, and then having people share their stories. That sharing stories is kind of going to run through all of ours. We thought that was important in all of them. Another kind of support group would be for people who are interested in search. How to go about the search, what are the emotions and feelings during the search and at the time of reunion, what kind of resources are available, how do you start, where do you go to get that going, when should you do it, and then people sharing their stories of what they've done and where they are with searching. Another one would be dealing with the adopted children, how to tell a child that he or she is adopted. It'd be the same kinds of things, when to tell, what are some of the emotions of adoptees, and how can we help them deal with those, what are the resources available to helping to explain adoption, and then sharing your stories again. And then there was some interest in a support group to help educate the community about adoption and the adoption triad. Who do we want to educate? What are the resources that are available? What information do we want to get out? And how to get that information out. So a lot would depend on what your support group, self-help group was about.
Thank you very much. We had a lot of good ideas between the 4 groups, and I think that she just summed it up saying that it depends on the members in your group. Each group could be quite different depending on the composition of your group. You mentioned about periodically checking, and that is very important. You could do a really good assessment of what people want at one time, and within a few months, or at least by 6 months, you should do it again. And I imagine that you probably do ask new people why they're at the group. I imagine that's something that already takes place. Another thing you can do is develop like a little checklist, some kind of like written thing that might have topics on it, whether that's search information or wanting to deal with reunion or sharing feelings, and have some sort of a checklist as well. And then just 2 simple questions can help a lot. What do you like most about this group, and what suggestions do you have for improvement? And that's something that could be given out periodically. If you mentioned earlier about wanting to establish a rapport with adoption agencies, that could be part of the focus in this. And you mentioned over here about having education for adoptive parents, and again doing brainstorming about topics. And in support groups, you can have part of the time on an educational topic, even with the speaker, and then part of the time on support. So there's no one format. There's so many different formats that can be used. Any other comments or questions before we move on to the next subject? Okay. Let's look at listening skills, because a lot of what we need in a support group has to do with wanting to share our feelings and to be listened to well. It's a very deep need that we all have, is that we want to be heard and understood. And when you're eager to communicate something, whether that's something that you're happy about or excited or angry or frustrated, what do you want from a listener? What are the characteristics of a good listener? And let's see. I need to get one of the pens back from somebody. Right. Thank you. So what are you looking for in a listener when you need to talk to somebody?
Eye contact.
Eye contact. Empathy.
Non-judgmental.
Non-judgmental.
Not too much interrupting.
Okay. Not interrupting.
Not telling their stories.
Not telling their stories.
Positive body language.
Okay, like what?
Well, they're not sitting there like this, their arms crossed, looking at you. If they, I don't know, or turning away, or the little subtle things you tend to pick up, like, oh yeah, I'm really interested in that. You can see that they're edging away or
Leaning forward towards them.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. So.
Be positive too.
Looking at their watches, that's real distracting.
Yeah.
Be nice if they could paraphrase or kind of tune into feeding back what you're saying.
So paraphrasing or giving some feedback, meaning just reflecting back that you've heard, right?
Acknowledgement through body language.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see.
Leading questions to help you get further with it.
Okay. Can you give an example of what you mean by that?
You can say, could you explain more what you mean by that?
Okay.
Or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, how do you...
Or if just a question comes to mind that you have about what the person is saying, to ask it specifically.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Giving them a summary or a clarity of what sometimes people don't always know what they're
And the summary can be both in the actual words that they've said or in the feeling that you hear. You know, it sounds like you're angry, kind of.
Saying, I understand.
I understand.
Validate your feelings.
How do you validate them?
Well, I mean, I thought body language was one of them, but by reflecting, acknowledging feelings, but then you share back with them.
Right.
Identify it possibly, just not in an interpretive way, but I think it's being open, just being open.
Okay.
I think sometimes I understand is not a good response, though.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I think sometimes people feel like they're the only ones that have had this experience. And if I say I understand, and you know I haven't had that experience, I really can't understand, and it's almost a put down. So I think you have to be careful when you use that.
I understand when it's appropriate.
Right, okay, so I understand. All right, get that clear here. Yeah, that's a good point. Any other comments about what you want from a listener?
Undivided attention.
Okay, undivided attention. Okay, great. Let's look at the other side of it, which is what you don't want. What are some of the things you definitely do not want from a listener?
Advice.
Advice.
/ lectures.
Okay, advice and lectures. Preaching.
Comparing.
Comparing, right, yeah, if you think that's bad, you should.
That's nothing. You don't want to.
Yeah, no judgment. Okay.
Egomaniac. Or egomaniac.
Pardon?
I'm always fighting about egomaniacs.
Egomaniacs? Meaning they turn the attention on themselves? Okay. And,
Trying to top someone's story.
okay.
Trying to analyze your situation.
Analyzing. Yeah, you don't want somebody to analyze your story.
I think fading out. I think a listener can just kind of, can still be looking at you and you know that they're not listening anymore.
They faded away?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes?
Sidetracking for the main issue.
You don't want the listener to sidetrack you to something else.
Here should, you should have done this.
Yes.
You should have done
You can live without the shoulds. Okay, any other thoughts? Well, I know that intellectually, I certainly know about all these things, and I know that you do too, but there are times when I'm just a superb listener, excellent. But there are other times where I'm a lousy listener. And there are some barriers or some things that can interfere with us listening. And we're talking about our support groups being a place where people will risk sharing feelings, and so it's really important that we do demonstrate good listening skills and also help other people to come in the group with listening skills too. What are some of the things that can interfere with actually being a good listener? Preoccupation. I'm sorry, what?
Crosstalk? People are crosstalk?
Crosstalk, like other conversations going on at the same time? Fatigue. Bias.
Your own material getting in the way.
Yeah, your own material getting in the way. Like, for example, your own material. If you have a lot of unresolved anger towards your birth mother, and someone else is talking about, something related to birth mothers, or as a birth mother talking, your own thoughts and feelings might color it. You may be able to stay objective and really be there for the other person, but maybe the situation you're in will filter what you're hearing, or how much you're able to just listen.
Well, I don't know how to word this, but I'm a wonderful listener usually, but there's a particular person who is constantly sharing with me every day, about 5 times a day. She would call me up, and I would listen to her every time, and I don't know how to word it, but there's a limit.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So someone may want you to listen too much, or more than you're willing to listen.
How about overextending yourself as a listener?
Okay. So the person is taking up too much of your time, and you're overextending yourself as a listener. Well, one thing to keep in mind, though, is that you do have the choice of when you want to listen to someone and when you don't.
Not when they show up at your house.
Does anybody have a suggestion, or do you have a suggestion about that?
Well, she's moved, so I'm all right now.
Oh, okay. You're lucky, huh?
How about this is not a good time for me? Either when they first call you on the telephone, and I know that I hate to be launched into something, and then somebody tells me 5 minutes later this isn't a good time for them.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried to learn when somebody calls me and it's the wrong time for me, I say, this is not a good time for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Or you can say, I have only 5 minutes, I can talk.
So,
Set limits.
right, to set time limits. Yeah, those are good.
As far as the people that show up unexpectedly, I think eventually you're going to have to be assertive and say, hey, call first. I really haven't got time. I mean,
It doesn't work.
well, at a certain point, you're going to end up yelling at them and screaming, and that's going to be the end of the friendship. You know,
Mhm.
you just have to tell them, hey, call first. Don't just drop by.
You're on the way out.
Or your face, when's your face go?
So,
No, would take no offense and no direct feedback on it at all. Kept coming back.
I think really
But-
that is being honest with how you feel.
being honest about how you feel.
I think people will always rate that, okay, he's tired, or he's not ready for this, whatever.
So maybe
Being
it's
honest.
like you're being dumped on, or you can being a good listener, if you feel like they're dumping on you.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. So if you feel like somebody's dumping on you and wanting you to take care of all their feelings, then that may interfere with your ability to listen. Is that okay?
This is true too. If you have rules about speaking,
Mm-hmm.
that helps other people listen.
Right. Like time limits, you mean, and things like that? Right. And did somebody over here say mutuality? Is that what I heard?
Yeah.
That you like it to be mutual. Exactly. Okay. Well, it sounds like this group knows that it's okay to say, I can't listen right now, that that's an option. You do have a choice about it. And that there are some things like stress and deadlines are two things that interfere with my being able to listen well to people. And we brought up, also if you're uncomfortable with certain emotions and someone else starts to express those emotions, that can be difficult. And so I think as you were saying, to acknowledge how you're feeling, being honest about it is a good way to go. And also to figure out within yourself why it is that you're uncomfortable with the emotion. Did you have a comment, Penny?
Yeah, I was going to say, I learned after a lot of experience that I could say, I'm not real good on this. She is, go talk to her. I mean, like, after a while, I couldn't help with searches anymore for a long time because everybody's search ran together in my head. And so I would say, I'm not a good one for asking search questions, but I can give you 3 people who are.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Just delegating.
So you were really in touch with where your limit was and were able to convey that. Well, congratulations. Oh, that's good. Oh, the other one I didn't mention too was childcare. If you're taking care of a child at the same time while you're trying to listen, that can be does that ever happen? Okay. Well, the next thing I wanted to go over had to do with feelings. And let's see. Oh, I know, confidentiality first. Well, confidentiality is kind of a trigger word in our movement because it's been used against us, right? But there's also some value in the concept of confidentiality. And for me to feel safe to open up and share things about myself, I like to know that it's not going to be talked about casually and I'm going to hear back from people that I would never have told myself. I like to know that I have the choice of who I tell and when I tell them and how I tell them. So one of the ground rules for confidentiality in a group may be not to repeat anything without the person's permission. And there's different levels of sharing. You know, in a group, we can share on a certain level, and if it gets repeated, maybe that's okay with us. But maybe we have a lot deeper feelings or emotions that we need to share and that we'd like to share. But if we feel the group isn't a confidential one and a safe one, that's just not going to come out for a lot of us. So it's a really important thing to talk about in a group is the role of confidentiality and how you all feel about it. But there's another interpretation of the word confidentiality that I think fewer people are aware of, and that's that you don't refer later to what's been said without the person bringing it up first. For example, let's say at a group somehow somebody got on the subject of when they were an adolescent, that they went into a psychiatric hospital and they had electric shock treatment for depression and how terrible the whole time was, etc. And then the next time you see them, in the meantime you've read an article about it and you tell them, oh, you know, I happened to read this article, and you bring it up. Well, maybe the person came to the group and they were feeling really good that day and they had planned to work in the group on something about their birth mother and, you know, or the birth father or some other situation. And all of a sudden, you've just reminded them of all this yucky stuff that they really didn't want to bring up that time. So that's part of confidentiality too, is to not bring up somebody's material unless they've, you know, indicated that they wanted to bring it up. And you can show interest in people, asking them how their life is going, how their search is going, how are you, those kind of things that you still convey a deep interest in knowing what's going on with someone without bringing up particularly painful details. Any comments about that?
This is the end of side A. Please turn your tape over and continue on side B.